Welcome to this video in which I'm going to be showing you how to approach INSEAD Essays for 2021. That is, if you're applying in 2020 for an intake in 21, then I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm also going to be adding a bonus section on the newly launched video essays that they have. So stay with me till the end. I'll be explaining this in a lot more detail. This is going to be a slightly longish video, so I hope you have a cup of coffee or something and just kick back and make notes while you're listening to this video because I'm going to give you some actionable points that you need to work on. Before I get there, what really is INSEAD all about? I would say number one would be the fact that it's a 10-month program, very condensed, right? Very intense academic environment. Most of my students who have gone to INSEAD, one thing they tell me is like, it's an experience, right? It's almost like exhilarating because you have just 10 months and they believe in work hard and party harder, right? So trust me, they have a lot of fun. They also, work for the classes. So a great experience overall. I've had fantastic reviews from students. One thing is the 10-month program. So if you are very clear what you want and you want that experience to be like a quick one and a tight one, maybe INSEAD is for you. The second thing, it has two campuses, one in Fontainebleau in I hope I get the pronunciation right, in France, and the other one in Singapore, correct? And you can give a preference which campus you want to apply, but they eventually will decide based on the class profile where they would give admission, but you can still go and study in the other campus, correct? So that's pretty much how the INSEAD program is going to work. What is the one thing that stands out about INSEAD is the whole international focus. In fact, if you look at the website, they give you an admissions criteria. So let me just go through the 4 admissions criteria. The first one they say is ability to contribute, right? So they are looking at people, yes, all these numbers, they are great, but I still want to sense someone who's able to actively participate and add value to the class, correct? So MBA experience is defined by your peers, right? So they want to make sure that you have that thing. Academic capability or capacity, which is your GMAT, GRE scores and your academic degree. People ask me, Arun, what is the average GMAT score and all that? See, whatever the average GMAT score is, 720, 730, the more important thing is you have to score as high as possible. There is nothing like target score. If you ask me what the target score should be, I will say 800, right? So try to score as high as possible. I have had students get in at 710, 720, 690, but they all had very different reasons. But at the same time, I've had people getting rejected at 760 also. So you need to understand GMAT score is not a make or break, but make sure you get as high as possible, especially if you are an Indian applicant. With regards to your undergrad, you don't need to worry. You need to be giving your transcripts, so they have a process by which you can upload it. Make sure you get your transcripts in time. They also have requirements like TOEFL, so make sure that you fulfill those criteria. So that would take care of that. International motivation. Now, this is a very important point, and they say adaptability and flexibility in multicultural environments. Now, if you think about it, someone like Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai, correct? They are not really Indians, they are not really Americans, they are really global citizens, right? So that's what people are looking for, especially in a post-COVID world where borders are going to be kind of seamless and work. See, in IT, it has always been happening, correct? But I think that is going to now come into other industries, right? Where people are going to hire talent from other places because they have realized that as long as you've got a computer and an internet connection, it doesn't matter where you are. How well are you able to kind of have that? Do I need international experience? This is one question that I keep getting asked. Well, if you have, great. If you don't, that's going to be a judgment call you need to make. So I'm going to give you one example of a student who we worked with. She did not have international experience. She still got through. Her case was she was an IT. She had these small stints of going to the US and stuff, but I don't think she stayed, outside the country. So she ended up, talking about the fact that she has worked only with foreign clients, right? From Australia to Europe to the US, and getting on Zoom or even emails, and how she understands that culture, and how despite her going there only once for a few months, she was able to quickly adjust. So a lot of things about how even if you don't have experience, you still have that focus, right? And the last one, I think this is something all B schools are going to look at: your leadership potential, right? In other words, it says work experience and quality of your achievements. See, it's not just about the number of years of work experience, it is about the quality, right? And one example that I give, and this is a general advice for you in terms of your career, is that saying that I have 7 years experience versus saying I have 5 years experience really doesn't tell me anything. Correct? So please quit that fallacy that more experience somehow makes you smarter. If you've been doing the same thing and there's been no growth in your career, then more years of experience will actually come back to bite you. Because a person with lesser years of experience can at least work his way through by saying hedge on, bet on me for potential. All right. Now coming to the main essays that we have. So as all years, they have certain set of essays that they call as your job description essays, correct? What are these job description essays? These are basically asking you to do write a paragraph, what they could potentially ask you in an interview. So what will they ask you in an interview, right? So I'll read out the first job description essay. Briefly summarize your current or most recent job in case you're being laid off, including the nature of work, major responsibilities, and where relevant, employees under your supervision, size of budget, clients, products, and results achieved. Now, very important that you have 200 words maximum. Please don't flood it. If you work for an employer who's already known, maybe you want to exactly talk about the contribution. If you work for a small startup or a smaller company, or the employer brand is not very known, maybe you want to give a description which sets the context. In this company's objectives, where do I fit in, right? So we are a company, we do XYZ. One important thing is for us to get very high quality leads. I work in the marketing department and I help the company achieve this. This is the kind of marketing budgets I have. So yes, they have given you some points, but feel free to describe it in what you think would be the best possible manner, given that you have 200 words. Essay number 2. Job description essay number 2. It says, what would be your next step in terms of position if you were to remain in the same company, right? So very clearly it has to be a role that is one step above what you are doing. But remember, you have 200 words and they are asking you next step. They are not saying, I'm a software engineer, my next step is to become a senior software engineer, right? Or I am a junior analyst, I'll become a analyst, right? So they are not looking at just that. Yes, you have to tell me the title, but here's what they would be more interested to know. What extra job responsibilities will you get? Right? So what more would you be responsible for? Give me a sense if you're going to have a higher budget, if you're going to be responsible for more people, if it requires any kind of independent decision making. All of those are things that you would put over here apart from just the title. The third essay for job description, please give a full description of your career since graduating from university. It says, describe your career path with rationale behind your choices. 300 words maximum. Again, if I were to ask you, well, what have you been doing? You'd say, well, Arun, I graduated from college. This company came for campus. I was very interested to know about technology and coding. And the first 1.5 years I spent at this company, great learning experience for me. I got to learn. But at that point, I realized that I wanted to know a little bit more about how a product works. So from a services company, I went to a product company. I worked there for about 2 years, and I got a sense of how products work, blah, blah, blah. And then, so every time you moved, what was the rationale? What more did you want to learn? Because the reason you moved cannot, I hope that you don't write, the reason was not better pay, correct, or more money. You have to tell what was your intrinsic motivation for you to do so. Then you have the next essay, fourth essay, which says, discuss your short and long-term career aspirations with or without an MBA from INSEAD. Now, this basically is short and long term. So you could say, what is your vision? Right? Now, sometimes what I've seen is people tend to have very broad visions. It's perfectly okay. You can use words like, I want to be an entrepreneur, correct? But just remember, everybody else is going to be saying that. So when you say you want to be an entrepreneur, what have you thought about it? Correct? I need to have at least some sense that you know what domain or what problem you're trying to solve or you are passionate to solve. For example, I would be passionate to solve the problem of learning, right? Like today, there is, the education has to be democratized, right? And there is content and technology that is making it happen. So how do I do that? So that is your long-term play. You don't need to give them your business plan of what you will do 10 years down the line, right? So I hope you understand what it is, and your short-term goal has to be very specific. But before I become an entrepreneur, I want to spend, say, 5 years in the consulting industry where I'll be able to get a multi-sectoral view of how to solve a problem. Perfectly fine, correct? So make sure you do that. So that's that. There is also one, optional essay that if you're not currently working or you plan to leave for more than 2 months before the program starts, please explain what you're going to be doing. See, they are not worried if you got laid off, right? By the way, I want to tell people who currently are in between jobs, it's okay. They are looking at, are you constructively utilizing that time? Are you doing some kind of a course? Are you enrolled for something? Something constructive. It cannot be like, oh, I'm just waiting for the next job. Now comes the main part, the motivation essays. They call it the motivation essays. Now, why do they call it the motivation? Because they want to see, are you motivated to do it? That's the best way to answer it, right? As always, you have 3 essays and you have an optional one over here. So what is the first essay? Let me just read that out. Give a candid description of yourself, who you are as a person, stressing the personal characteristics you feel to be your strengths and weaknesses, and the main factors which have influenced your personal development, giving examples when necessary. Now you see a lot of things going on over here. So now what they are really trying to do is they are trying to understand who you are as a person, right? When you go back to that childhood and you say, I grew up in a joint family that made me share with others, that's one thing that I've learned. Or the fact that I come from an army background meant that I was traveling every other year to new cities, making new friends, correct? So I think your background is going to define a large part of who you are today, correct? So I think it's important to talk about that influence and give them a sense of who you are. And please don't try to, create something that you are not, or something that you think the B school wants to hear. Right? They want to just know that if I were to read this story, is this a person that I want to meet on campus? Is this a person that I will know when I talk to that person during the interview? Right? Will I get a sense of who that person is? Right? So that's what they are trying to really gauge over here. And when you talk about who you are, obviously when you're talking about, let's say, I've had someone said, I'm very disciplined in my life. Right? They said, well, there is a lot of discipline. I wake up, at a particular time, I sleep. And the reason I do that is because I try to juggle so many things in life. I want to be very good at, let's say, my health. I'm a runner. But at the same time, I don't want to compromise on family time. At the same time, I want to compromise on work. Right? So I juggle a lot of things. I think I'm very disciplined, and that's a characteristic I have. But however, what it also does is sometimes I feel that I need to be slightly more flexible, right? Because plans don't go as per the way I intended them to be. And if there is some change, my schedule gets this, and I get a little agitated, and I need to learn how to, sometimes be flexible, and, that's something that I'm learning. Now, it is just telling me who you are as a person. Right? So the weakness over here, and I'm pretty sure you can all perhaps imagine a person who's probably like this, right? So they are just getting a sense of who you are. Now, would you be able to say that without stories? Probably not. So you need to be telling a story, correct? You can't just describe who you are. You will have to give them some kind of a supporting proof, especially since you have 500 words. And they are saying giving examples when necessary, right? So tell me, what are the things you manage, right? Because you're so disciplined. tell me the last time you were frustrated, and tell me what did you learn from that, kind of thing. So I think it has to be a mix. So before you even start writing, I think it's important for you to analyze, maybe introspect a little. Having self-awareness is very important, correct? So make sure you do all of those. Talk to people in your network, talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, ask them, what do you think could help me define me, right? Putting it in the form of words, according to me, is the second part, right? And I just wanted to introduce that, Crack Verbal, if you've been following us on YouTube, we bring out a lot of content, but we also have a separate admission services team. These are all alums from top B schools who work with candidates one-on-one, would work with you one-on-one on your INSEAD applications, right? These are alums. These are typically people who have gone to a top school, so they know what it takes to succeed. So in case you're interested in that, there is a link below in the description. So make sure you fill out this form. It's more to see if we can help you with your essays, especially if you've taken the GMAT, you're considering NCR. We have got students who've been there, so we can look at your candidature and give you our honest opinion on that. So now, how do you structure the 500 words? I would say you need to be a little fluid, but if you're going to give 2 examples, you're going to give your family background, right? So that itself is 3 paragraphs, and I would imagine that this kind of an essay would require a summary. So you're looking at about 4 paragraphs, and you have about 500 words, which means you are going to give the first and the last paragraph maybe 100 words each, and maybe the other paragraphs, the rest of the 300 words. Again, remember this. This is just a thumb rule. If you feel that it should be 150, and the examples can be just 100, that's also fine. You are the best person to judge. You are the person who knows, how to utilize the words effectively. Correct? Let's get to the second essay. So the second essay says, describe the achievement of which you are most proud and explain why. In addition, describe a situation where you failed. How did these experiences impact your relationships with others? Very interesting. How did these experiences impact your relationship with others? Comment on what you learned. Maximum 400 words. First of all, you need to pick the 2 stories. So you have one story where you are proud of an achievement, and another story where you are going to be talking about a failure. So they clearly say, where you failed. So it cannot be a situation where you say, we did not get the order, but after 3 months I persuaded them, and then it has to be a failure. It has to be like, I launched this startup, it failed, I folded, I went back, right? It has to be like that. So what is important and very crucial about this essay is, please don't get into the details of the achievement itself. I think that's where people get it wrong. Given that you have 400 words, I'm going to talk about the word limit because it's very important for us to process the word limit so you understand how it works, right? So I need to have an introduction, I need to have an ending. I also need to have 1 paragraph for achievement, I need to have 1 paragraph for failure. Both achievement and failure, you can use this template to describe the story. The template would be, give me a situation. It's called the START framework, START. I'll be explaining what START means. First one, situation. What was the situation that was before you came in? Because unless and until you set the context, what you did is going to be very hard for them to decipher. The second, what was the task involved? What is it that you are expected to do in this? I'm assuming you're part of a team. What was the thing that actually happened? Action. And post that, the fourth is result, R. Now, the result can be positive or can be negative. If it is positive, it becomes a success story. If it is negative, it becomes a failure story. So there is no harm in that. And then finally, the most important thing, takeaways. Takeaways means, what did I learn from this experience? Correct? Simply put, they are saying, explain why. Right? So explain why you think, why are you most proud of it? Because there is something that you realized. It is not because the company won that $10 million contract, or because you wrote that awesome piece of code, or you did something else. It's something else that is more personal to you, right? Maybe it gave you that confidence. Maybe it taught you something about leadership, right? Whatever that be, I need to know that why in the takeaways. Similarly, when it says a situation where you failed, you also need to emphasize what you learned from it. Now, this is where it says, how did these experiences impact your relationship with others? This is where your conclusion comes. Success or failure is not within our control, correct? Independent of the fact that it succeeded or failed, what is it that changed about you? See, one thing that INSEAD is very interested to know is, are people malleable? Are they changeable? Because if you are rigid in your thought process, if you are not going to change, right, it's going to be very hard for them to affect any change in 10 months. Unless and until you have that in your DNA. So that's what you want to reflect over here, which is how has it helped your personal development, right? What has it changed about you as a person? Correct? I think it's very important that you do that. So again, 500 words, as I said, there is a starting, there has to be a preamble to it, there has to be a conclusion to it, so 2 paragraphs, and then another 2 paragraphs, so you have 4 paragraphs. As I said, if you are going to use the START framework, you realize you have only about 200 words, 150, 200 words, can be very tight, which means each of these could just be a sentence. You don't even have that space to elaborate, right? So try to be very, very, tight in your writing. Though it says 500 words, though it says 400 words, I still feel there is a lot of content that you need to be conveying over here. Essay number 3, okay. Describe all types of extra professional activities in which you have been or are still involved for a significant amount of time. This is the important thing, okay. Clubs, sports, music, arts, politics, etc. How are you enriched by these activities? Again, it's a word limit. This time it's about 300 words. Now, what does INSEAD really look for when they are reading this? Are they bothered about what your political opinion is or the quality of what you're doing? So let me give an example. Would there be a difference between a person who says, I did over the weekends, I tried to help people during COVID. Let me give an example. I tried to help people over COVID. Now this is explained using, let's say, 2 different stories. Tell me which story is better, or if there is an opinion on that. The first guy says, I love playing the guitar. I have a small can of this. So we actually did a Zoom session where we had this thing on YouTube live on our channel, where we played a couple of songs, and just to make people happy. And I think in these days, music can actually lift people's mood, right? That's the first thing. Now here is the second story for you. I coordinated with an NGO and I made sure that the immigrant laborers, they had food, right? Or I was able to help the needy in some way. Tell me, do you think there is a difference between the 2 stories? According to INSEAD, doesn't matter. How you help doesn't matter. What they are looking for is, are you a person who's constructively utilizing his time? Maybe you helped your apartment owners association by volunteering something, right? Maybe you're a photographer. Maybe whatever. You need to have some interest in life. And if you were to ask me, if you're going to struggle answering this question, forget about INSEAD. I would say you need to take a look into, maybe cultivating something, right? It could be quizzing, it could be anything. As I said, don't really worry. That's why they have said it's a ample. Now, what is the things that you cannot put? Okay, what is it that you cannot put? You cannot put things like watching Netflix. I like to watch a lot of TV and I like political debates. I watch Arnab Goswami every day. You have to be careful, because what is it telling me? Because remember this, how are you enriched by these activities? So if you're going to say, I watch news and I get enriched by it, you're applying to INSEAD. I'm expecting something else. I'm expecting a leader. I'm expecting someone who does something more in his spare time, right? So that's where you need to be a little careful. Okay, 300 words might depends on number of extracurricular activities you have, but please max it out to 3. Don't write 10 things that you do. Write just 3 things. What I'm more interested to know is how you are involved. Every day I wake up and I go to play badminton. I play badminton for like 1.5 hours in this club. I sweat it out. Great, put it there, right? I mean, that's perfectly okay. Or I go to the gym, it's perfectly okay. What does fitness mean for you? I do yoga, perfectly okay. I do meditation, right? I just listen to this app. Every day I do that for 30 minutes. It's a very important thing. But you need to understand that if that is something, how are you involved in it for a significant amount of time? You can't just say every day for 10 minutes I listen to a meditation app, right? You have to say, well, I am actually blogging about meditation. I am giving these free classes on meditation. I don't know how you are contributing to the community, right? So that's what you need to look at. So pick an interest, how you are able to contribute. 300 words, I think, should not be a problem for this. Last one, optional essays. Is there anything else that was not covered in your application that you would like to share with the admission committee? Maximum 300 words. My take on this would be, write anything that you feel is missing in your application, right? Maybe you want to talk about something. They already have given you a space in case you have got a job break or something. What they are looking at is something else, maybe an academic break or something else that you want to explain. But make sure what you are explaining is not something that they wouldn't care about. So I've noticed some of the students, they've used this, they say, oh, by the way, in 3rd year, in that particular subject, I got low score, but I want to tell you it is. Everybody understands 1 or 2 subjects you're going to score low. So don't be too this. I would be okay even if I don't write it. Now comes the third part, the new part that they have introduced, which is your admissions, video interview. So what is going to happen? I'm just going to read out from the website. So you're going to be recording 4 questions, correct? And these questions will vary from one applicant to another. My sense is that this is going to be, something that is similar. So in first case, they could ask, tell me about a time that you failed. Okay. In the second question, they could say, what did you learn from your failure? So they could make some variations, but I think the themes for these would be generally the same. The website for it is Kira Talent. So you can just go over there and just check. They have a free practice questions. You can take unlimited practice. So you just make sure you look at it. So if you look at the website, they clearly mention that shortly after completing your online application, you will receive an email notification from Kira Talent, that's the company, with a unique link to complete 4 interview questions, right? So once you go to Kira Talent, you will see that there are 4 questions. Something more about that is you will have 45 seconds to prepare for each answer and 60 seconds to record your answer. So what will happen is you will have to enable your laptop mic and camera, and once you start, it will show you the prompt and it will give you 45 seconds. So there will be a timer. So you have 45 minutes, you have a paper and a pen, and you can just write what you want from an MBA program. And there's a couple of questions that they could ask. So you just go through it. We will be trying to actually have these questions once our students go through it. We'll have some sample questions given on our website. By the way, in case you're not checked out the Crack Verbal website with the INSEAD page, please make sure you check that. That's also in the link below. So you can write it down on a piece of paper, gather your thoughts and give out the answers in about 60 seconds. A couple of things over here, make sure that you don't have any technical issues. So I've heard problems where people said suddenly the power went off. I know this is not in your control, but don't worry, the platform actually gives you an option to redo it if it's a genuine case, right? So don't worry about that, but make sure as much as possible, try to keep the environment, quiet, make sure your phone is on silent. I had one example of a student who was doing the video interview and then someone came at the door, he was alone in the house and he kept ringing the bell, right? And it's in the middle of the interview. So those kind of things could happen, so just make sure that you're able to plan for it, okay? And more details of that will be here. I hope you liked this video. As I said, it was a longish video, but I hope you got a good sense of what you need to be doing for the INSEAD applications. If you like this content, we have a lot more MBA essay analysis coming out this year. Make sure you're subscribed to Crackverbal. Ensure that you go ahead and like this video so that we can reach out to more people. In case you have any questions about the school or about your MBA applications, make sure you ask me in the comments below. We will ensure that we answer each and every question. Thank you so much and all the best.